I'm a millennial, which means I was raised in a feminized school system run by unions and big pharma. I grew up in an increasing police state. I now struggle with crushing inflation and school debt. And for that school debt, I got to be indoctrinated into socialism and to believe that men are not men and women are not women. And if I speak out against any of this, I'm a bigot. The people who control this narrative control not only the education system, but the government and the media as well. So yeah, from time to time, I find alternative media cathartic.
Go away now.
Tough town, boys. What you have?
But those who are apparently in favor of the system don't like that. People who make videos like this.
Russia simp, Republican presidential hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy, who himself was on Glenn Beck's podcast with Eric, and Jesus Christ, it just keeps going, and
people who hate media bias.
Bounding into Comics' editorial bias, serving as the long-time advertising partners for the infamously biased Drudge Report.
But get their news from BuzzFeed.
Per BuzzFeed News,
You are fake news.
People like that don't like when people like me have our own opinion and then spread it around.
Trent is helpfully upfront. He clarified in a recent YouTube interview with Master Swag King that his mindset, and therefore Bounding into Comics mindset, at least while he was in charge, was one that accepted the fact any work will contain messages, and opposed specifically those messages his austere and patriotic Catholic self considered immoral. This is why you can find old Bounding into Comics articles which condemn women wearing revealing dresses in demonological terms, and that Master Swag King interview also saw Trent give some further examples of what would fall under this umbrella, like homosexual activity and women's reproductive rights.
People are going to be kind of fooled by the production value. So it's like, oh, it's really well made, the story's really well done, but it's like, well, it's literally telling you that gay sex is good, though. So things like that, if that makes sense. Or it's like killing this child is a good thing.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
All this started with a debate on whether or not the writers of the X-Men meant them to be woke.
Let's start out with the fact that Marvel are just now, in the year of our Lord 2024, making the X-Men woke.
The guy making this argument then admits he can't define what woke is, and instead makes ad hominem attacks, before making his case that right-wing media comes from corrupt, dark money. I'll say again, right-wing media.
First, you have the World Economic Forum, WEF, and their platform for shaping the future of media, entertainment, and culture.
Yeah, I'm going to cite biased media because all media is biased, and if you're a critical thinker, you can consume any form of media from any side and form your own opinion.
Second, you have the World Federation of Advertisers, WFA, who represent mega corporations that control 90% of global advertising dollars. In 2019, the WFA established the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, or GARM. Within months, the WEF adopted GARM as part of its platform for shaping the future of media, entertainment, and culture. GARM is a cross-industry alliance that brings these mega corporations, the advertisers, together with big tech companies like Meta, who owns Facebook and Instagram, Google owned YouTube, the CCP's TikTok, and even Snapchat and Pinterest. This unholy alliance created something they call the Brand Safety Floor and Suitability Framework. Think of brand safety as a dog whistle for censorship. They say it themselves. The Brand Safety Floor means, quote, content not appropriate for any advertising support. So, what have these global elites decided to put in their censorship framework? It started with things we can almost universally agree on, like preventing the distribution of child pornography or the advocacy of graphic terrorist activity. But they don't draw the line at what is objectively criminal, abusive, or dangerous. They continue expanding the guidelines to include far more subjective parameters. The framework is deliberately vague, allowing those in control to pick and choose how they enforce it and against whom. If you think this is only something big news corporations have to contend with, think again. Even the content you consume from independent content creators on social media platforms, like the one on which you're watching this video, is subject to these globalist powers that be. So, for example, my friend Matt Walsh, he was demonetized on YouTube. Why? Well, because he says that men are not women. The same was true on TikTok, another GARM member, where Daily Wire hosts are routinely hit with content strikes and various bans for saying things like men are not women. Meanwhile, Dylan Mulvaney shoots up the TikTok algorithms by insulting women, saying day one of being a girl and I've already cried 3 times already. Or, for example, if you question the accepted wisdom on COVID. So, for example, let's say you say that vaccines, not great for kids. No evidence kids need them. Kids aren't dying from COVID. If you say any of those things, GARM, the WEF, the WFA, they will crack down on you with alacrity. In addition to looking at how companies and creators are punished for violating these standards, it's also important to look at what is considered brand safe. In other words, what narratives are 90% of advertising revenue dollars working to advance? So, for example, advertisers like Procter & Gamble, who advertise with Mulvaney, consider Mulvaney safe, as opposed to the Daily Wire, which is not considered brand safe, and thus would never be supported by the same advertiser. Brand safety regulations inform culture. In some ways, they actually fund culture, like GARM member Bud Light sending a personalized girlhood beer can to Dylan Mulvaney, or GARM member Lego declaring gender is non-binary and making trans-themed Lego designs, or GARM member Hershey's using a male in a women's chocolate ad, or GARM member P&G's razor brand Gillette, which pushed toxic masculinity narratives and taught dads how to shave their daughters' beards. These are all endeavors deemed to be brand safe for companies to engage in, and not risk being either deprived of others' advertising dollars or having their advertising dollars turned away. By contrast, Jeremy's Razors, not a brand safe partner. Bud Light isn't going to be sending a flannel shirt to Matt Walsh. Matt is not brand safe. Abigail Schreier can't advertise her book on Amazon. It contains objectionable content about sexual orientation. But Amazon will allow paid ads for things like chest binders and pro-trans books. So, what does all this mean? Why should you care? Well, like any other business, the news media, we have to be able to make money by producing the news. Fact checkers are now incentivizing media outlets to comply with the WEF GARM narratives by determining what is and what is not monetizable. The WEF, GARM, the WFA, they're all actively working with social media companies to censor what they consider to be misinformation, which very often is just good information with which they disagree. Finally, the WEF, the WFA, GARM, they're all aggressively pouring billions of dollars a year into news and content that drives their preferred narrative. Narratives that are often counterfactual at best and harmful at worst. When you look at the news, you need to feel as though you're getting all the information. And even if one source isn't giving you all the information, you can check another source. And all of those sources together will give you a broad view of the world. But the World Economic Forum, the World Federation of Advertisers, and the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, they don't want you to have a full view of the news. They want you to see what they want you to see, and they will work to prevent anyone from disseminating information they don't pre-approve. They are determining what you see, what you hear, what you watch, and that's dangerous.
The maker of the video I'm responding to acts like only right-wing media is biased and connected in some kind of business network, and left-wing media is independent and at the center of the political spectrum. And that is a pillar of garbage.
Velho transformou o mito das raças tristes em minotauros. Júnior Cigano, em José Aldo, Lyoto Machida. Foda, foda, foda.